So, with the upcoming election just 4 weeks away, we are excited to welcome Jill Zimon, co founder and executive director of the Ohio Debate Commission, which is a nonpartisan collaboration between media, academia, and civic organizations. Jill has led the Ohio Debate Commission since 2018. She has worked in law, social work, and civic engagement roles over the last 30 years, and as a freelance writer since 2002. She has been an adjunct professor in social work at Cleveland State University since 2015. She has her JD and Master of Science in Social Administration from Case Western Reserve University and a bachelor's degree in government and sociology from from Georgetown University. She has been actively engaged throughout the community, serving the American Jewish Committee, Urban League of Greater Cleveland, and the Jewish Federation of Cleveland. And she is a proud graduate of the Leadership Cleveland class of 2022. A few of your classmates I see here on the call with you today, and we are so excited to have you. Jill, I turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Rachel. Really appreciate you covering this topic, and I appreciate everybody making time. I know it's a very busy time. The Guardians didn't go too late last night. I think I might have preferred being up late last night if it meant that they would have won, but on to Thursday. So thank you all again for being here. So I want to make the most of this time, and I think that the best way to kind of share with you the work that we do and all the phases of putting on a debate is best demonstrated in this very brief video that was put together by Central State University. We provided the opportunity at the only public HBCU in Ohio, Central State University, for them to have their first ever statewide race debate on their campus. And it was just about as exciting as I think you can feel when you watch this brief video. So I'm going to share the screen. So if anybody ever asks you why debates, do debates matter? I feel like the answer is in that very brief video, which is the experience that you get of seeing the candidates, of being in an audience, of having live skilled moderators asking questions, following up, being able to watch how candidates interact and how they react. Is something that you simply can't get from an editorial endorsement interview, from a stump speech, or certainly from a paid ad. And what we provide is another way for voters to get information that can help them make decisions. So before we get to the Q&A, I'd just like to share some basic things about what we know about debates and what we do, what our work has consisted of in the last for almost 5 years now, and how we involve people. So this year, we actually learned from a poll that was done about a month ago that 84% of Ohioans want debates for the gubernatorial and the US Senate candidates this cycle. We know that we're getting two, not done by the ODC, but there will be two US Senate debates. One was this past Monday. So far, it does not appear that the gubernatorial candidates will face off. The Debate Commission was formed in early 2018 as a pilot project of the City Club of Cleveland. And that was in part because we were anticipating the kinds of resistance that we would be getting. We became a C3 in 2020. I became executive director in that year. And our funding comes primarily from philanthropies like the Cleveland Foundation, the Gun Foundation, the Fowler Foundation. We have sponsors like AARP and the Kiplinger Program for Public Affairs Journalism, and several other funders of that type. So far, we have done 6 debates. We've done 3 generals and 3 primary. So 2 in 2018, 1 during the pandemic, and then 3 primary debates in March of this past year. Those who are saying no this time around to us have previously participated with us very successfully. This question of saying yes, saying no is not unique to Ohio. And I think that's really important to point out, but I think it's almost even more important to point out that it's not just Republicans, it's not just Democrats. In Arizona, Washington State, New Jersey, it's been Democrats. In Ohio, Nevada, Missouri, it's been Republicans. So, I think it's really important when we're talking about debates and why aren't candidates debating, what does convince them to debate. We need to make sure that we're being clear about what are the specifics of the race, what are the specifics of that state. Because as I mentioned, that the 6 or 7 states that I've mentioned are all quite different from each other. So it's very particularized. In terms of the work that we've done to educate voters, in addition to just, and I shouldn't say just providing the debate, what goes into putting a debate on, it takes many, many months. We actually planned for the primary debates almost a year in advance for the March 2021 primary or 2022 primaries. And it costs a lot of money. Some of what you're seeing, for example, Monday night in the Nexstar Fox 8 studios, that was in a studio. Doing debates in studio is extremely efficient financially. However, debate commissions, there are 3 others in the country, Utah, Indiana, and Washington State all have debate commissions, tend to do their debates in either at universities or other places where you can have a live audience. And that means that you have to basically take and recreate a broadcast studio in a place that doesn't usually have something being broadcast from their facilities. And it does cost tens of thousands of dollars. So they're very expensive endeavors, especially if you want to do it at a high quality. As I mentioned before, we've done 6 debates. I want to say a little bit more about some of our numbers. We have over 100 news and other outlets that partner with us, participate, support, or otherwise cover our work. We've had more than 300 high school and college students from across the state participate directly in our work. They've served as interns. We have had graduate school students working with us, and we also provide very specific student programming. Just yesterday, we had over 100 students from Cleveland and Akron high schools, plus a little bit more than 30 college students from around the state come into Akron, and we were with them from 8 a.m. until about 6 p.m. with a variety of panels and tabletop discussions. And some of the work that the students did involved coming up with questions that they would ask the candidates. We are going to be taking the questions that the students developed and voted up to WFMJ, which has been a partner of ours in the past. They are the host for the 10/17 for the upcoming US Senate debate on Monday. We're going to be sharing the questions with them, and we're hoping that they may actually use one of the questions from the students. In our primary debates, we did actually use one of our students' questions. We did 3 debate watches in the presidential cycle in 2020. Of course, the pandemic really stretched all of us to try and find ways to be together. And we had over 700 participants across those 3 virtual debate watches. We structure them with a panel, then people go off and watch the debate. And then when they come back, we have facilitated breakout rooms. And we had high school and college students in the same breakout rooms with AARP members talking about that first presidential debate. And everybody learned something. We have had the very generous backing of the Cleveland Foundation to put together the Ohio Debate Commission's Debate Playbook. This is something that's available for download on our website. And if I'm not just running out of time yet, I am going to quickly share again to show this to you. Okay, if you go to our website, you'll be able to find the Debate Playbook and a quick facts one-pager on it. You can do the downloads here, and it's available in French, Spanish, Arabic, and Chinese. We've had almost 2,000 downloads of it since January of this year. And what you're going to find is, I'll click to it very quickly, you're going to find a document that's about 25 pages, 20 to 25 pages of narrative description with a very specific table of contents. And then you're going to find an appendix that has samples and examples of all the kinds of worksheets and letters and budget documents and event clocks that you could possibly need to put on your own debate. The reason why I point this out is because 2023 is a municipal election cycle, and this playbook is intended to help people at the local level find others who are interested in bringing candidates in person together with voters and have their own debates. So we do know that it's been used that way, and we're looking forward to using 2023 time, which is kind of a down year for us because there are no statewide races in 2023, to push out that debate playbook and see if we can't provide some technical support to folks who want to put them on. And the last thing that I'd like to say is there are 5 basic ways that we think people can get involved. Number 1, contact the candidates and let them know that you want them to debate. The second thing is attend a debate or watch our debates. All our debates are archived on our website. And so, for example, with the judicial races this year, the race for Chief Justice between Justice Kennedy and Justice Bruner, they both participated in our 2020 virtual forum. You can go and watch that forum if you haven't had a chance to see or hear either of those candidates. Chief Justice is an incredibly important role, and we would encourage folks to do that. Download our playbook, find partners, and consider doing a debate for your municipal elections. We have a newsletter, a periodic newsletter that you can sign up for on our website. And of course, we're on a lot of social media. So we ask people to engage by following us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok. So I see that we're at 12:14. Those are pretty much all the things that I wanted to at least touch on. I have a list of questions that I'm kind of expecting. And so rather than preempt people, I think I'll just let you, Rachel, open it up. And if we start to run dry on questions, I've got plenty that we've had over the last several weeks that I certainly can address.
Wonderful. Well, I do have a few questions, so we'll start there and then see if there are some additional topics you want to make sure that we cover before we wrap up today. So I guess, Jill, the question that I have to start really is around, especially this election cycle, just why do you feel that the candidates might be reluctant to engage in debates? What are you hearing as you're trying to schedule these?
So I think what the Debate Commission is told, what people read in news reports, and then what's actually going on within a campaign, those 3 touch points for answering that question help us get a kind of 360 view of what's really going on. So when we're contacted by candidates and they say they're not going to participate, for example, from the DeWine campaign, we got a very courteous brief. Thank you for the invitation. We are declining. We didn't get anything more than that. No reason. When the Vance campaign communicated with us, they said that because they saw some investigative reporting, they felt that the Ohio Debate Commission might not be able to be fair. And so that was why they were not going to participate with us. Of course, they did participate with us in March of 2022. When the news started to come out about those situations where the candidates were declining, lots and lots of speculation was put out there, and some content from the campaigns also came out in addition to what had been shared with us. So the governor's folks shared that he's very available, he's attending forums, he does lots of press conferences, he's going to the county fairs. There's plenty of ways for people to learn what his positions are, that he also engages with press. And so in terms of that accountability, they feel that that is sufficient. In terms of the Vance campaign, they shared with news media that they were dissatisfied with the fact checking that was done by the Ohio Debate Commission in March of 2022. And they also shared that they had a concern because of some specifics in the executive director's past, specifically about 8 years ago, that they were concerned about whether there would be bias. And again, I do want to point out in defense that they did participate with us in March. So all of that information was true then, as it is true now. Then when you put your campaign strategist hat on, there's really only a couple of things. The first thing is every campaign operative wants their candidate to win. So all the decisions that they're going to make go through that funnel of, will it help us win or not? And if you look at an incumbent who's looking at the polls, you're thinking, I feel safe. Why would I risk going to a live event like that? In terms of the campaign that was concerned about bias, again, they're looking to win. And the two hosts that they do have for the debates, one of them is a host that they wanted from the start, which was the one on Monday. And the other one is the host that the Ryan campaign wanted, one of the three that they wanted. And so it looks as though they've made that compromise, which is fine and it's good. We'll still get to. And I want to point out that both FMJ and Fox 8 have been big supporters of the Debate Commission, as have other Next Star stations. So, we are a big family. We don't put ourselves out there as being exclusive. We want other people to be putting on debates. And voters need to remember, before the pandemic, gubernatorial and US Senate candidates typically debated a minimum of 3 times. So voters have to think about, what are they willing to accept? And when we talk about, well, how do we make the candidates say yes? They need to feel consequences. Some people feel like the Debate Commission needs to be handing out the consequences. But our opinion is the ultimate consequence is how voters vote. So voters need to take this into account when they're thinking about the behavior of candidates and how they will be as people who govern us.
So
long answer. Sorry.
Oh, no, fantastic. Great insights into what we're seeing and what we're hearing. So as we talk about voters and the candidates saying that there are these other opportunities for them to be available and to share with voters, where are the voters turning to learn about the candidates and the issues at hand?
That's a great question. I think our partners at Cleveland Votes and Nova, League of Women Voters, really have their finger on the pulse for that. I think there are a lot of voter guides out there. There are a lot of interviews that the candidates have done one-on-one with a variety of organizations, including nonprofits and news organizations. There are some pretty good ones out there, but I think what you find is the same questions are asked, and a lot of times you get the same answers as well. So, again, I am biased. I'm biased towards debates. I just feel very strongly that debates are just a very unique tool for helping us figure out more about each candidate. And again, I want to impress upon everybody, Dr. John Green, who was the head of the Bliss Institute of Applied Politics at the University of Akron for many, many years, and is a nationally known expert on debates, he has been very clear, and the studies are very clear, that particularly at the presidential level, debates may not make that much difference, but certainly at state and local levels, they can make a difference of 2 to 3, even 4%. So in these close races, they really do matter, and they particularly matter with undecided voters. So if you are a convener of debates and you're able to attract and find and bring in those undecided voters, you're going to make a difference.
You've mentioned bias a few times, and as a nonpartisan organization in what has turned into an incredibly partisan political field, how do you maintain that nonpartisan stance?
Well, I did not make this phrase up about our work myself. I have to attribute it to Andrew Tobias of Cleveland.com. But Andrew's just in getting a similar kind of question, Andrew said that basically our work is like the work of my work in particular is like the work of the wedding coordinator. No one's going to confuse me with J-Lo, but he's not that wrong. I mean, we bring people together. So the Debate Commission both produces and distributes the work that we do. So we're putting on this event, and then we're also distributing this event. But that's it. We have a specific editorial producer who works with the moderators. They are really the folks who are in charge of the questions. No one else sees them. In terms of the format, the candidates come and meet with us. And this is how we did it in the primaries and before now, and we would have done it this year. So every detail in the MOU is a detail that they can have a say about. And I promise you, there's serious negotiation. Now, sometimes there's principles that we stand on, but in terms of the bias, we've had 80 to 100 media outlets work with us for 4.5 years. There has been no claim whatsoever of bias. This is really the first incident that we have. And so, I have to say, in terms of how do we keep it and how do we try to maintain a lack of bias, we do need to listen to the concerns, and we need to figure out what else can we do to assuage people's fears that there might be bias. But we're pretty transparent. We are constantly sending out information to these partners that I keep referring to let them know what we're doing and when we're doing it. We probably give out a lot more information than perhaps we should to kind of protect what we do, but that's just not how we operate.
How do you encourage folks to encourage debates after a debate like this past week when the media says no one won?
Well, I think to say that no one won is just one metric for viewing the value of the debate. For people who are following the race as a horse race, then who won, who lost? Yeah, that's a valid question. Everybody wants to know, what did people think? But we also need to ask a lot of other questions. How did they look to you? How did they sound to you? Did you believe what they had to say? What questions would you want to ask? What didn't they answer? Where were they ambiguous? Where were they clear? How many times did they agree with what your positions are? Did they change your mind about your own position? Did you learn something you didn't know? So I think there's a variety of other ways to measure the value of a debate than who won.
You mentioned some of the work that the Debate Commission does with students. So what are you hearing from the next generation of voters on their views of politics and elections?
That's such a great question. These students are incredible. We had Dean Mitchell McKinney, who is another national expert on debates, speak with the students for almost an hour and a half yesterday. He is the dean of the Bucktail Arts and Sciences School at University of Akron. And then we had a lunchtime keynote with the director of KSU's School of Journalism and Media. And on that panel was Karen Kassler and Anthony Shoemaker from Gannett USA Today, Lucia Walenchis from Ion, Ohio, and Jim Crutchfield, who's leading the Marshall Project, which is focused on criminal justice. And so, wide variety of platforms, wide variety of experiences, young and old. And the students, they had so many questions. And I think the students are very clear-eyed. They understand that there are problems, and there are problems in the media in terms of hierarchy, in terms of filters. And what the students wanted to know was what's being done about those things within the industry, and what can they do to help improve on some of these things. So they recognize that there are voices that sound off on something that get to be really loud, but aren't the full story. But I think it's also really important to point out that the students in the room, who were 14 or 15 to 21, 22, when we asked how many of them get their news from a print publication, 2 hands went up. So for those of us involved in or wanting to influence media, we have to really think about that. And we have to not be afraid of social media. We need to have to think about what role we have, knowing that the young people are getting all their information from those sources, to make sure that we help balance those sources for them. I mean, we have an obligation too.
So Jill, as you look ahead beyond this election cycle, what's on the horizon for the Ohio Debate Commission?
Well, we actually have a board meeting in just less than a couple of weeks. And so we're going to have a lot to talk about. Typically, as I said, the municipal cycle years are more of a down cycle for us. But because of the events of this general election cycle, we're going to be doing a lot of introspection, and we will be, I think, I would like to maybe bring in some focus groups to hear more. I'd like to see us bring back together the original 50 or 60 folks that we brought together 5 years ago who came up with this idea in the first place, and kind of do a 360 review of where are we, where were we, where have we been, where are we now? I think we need to look at our mission and our vision statement. I hope that the playbook really gets into more hands and gets used by more folks, and we will be here to provide technical assistance. And of course, we will be looking at 2024 when there will be a presidential cycle. We will have a US Senator, our incumbent Sherrod Brown will be up for re-election, should he choose to run for re-election again. We'll have a couple of Chief Justice seats, and we don't know what ballot issues might be on the statewide ballot. So there's always a possibility that we would cover those. So no shortage of work.
Well, Jill, we thank you so much for sharing insights on the work that you do and elevating the topics for the election. And we encourage everyone here in 4 weeks to get out and vote and be a part of our election process.